With us tonight, folks, thanks for watching. We're not going to change the law, says the governor of Indiana. We start tonight with the outrage over Indiana's so-called religious freedom law. Indiana Governor Mike Pence is defiant, and he's come under heavy criticism on all fronts. On Sunday, he came out on defense.
Was it a mistake to sign this law?
Absolutely not. The Religious Freedom Restoration Act was signed into federal law by President Bill Clinton more than 20 years ago, and it lays out a framework for ensuring that a very high level of scrutiny is given anytime government action impinges on the religious liberty of any American. After that, some 19 states followed that, adopted that statute. I understand that there's been a tremendous amount of misinformation and misunderstanding around this bill.
Misunderstanding, misinformation. Let's dissect all of this for a moment. There's one major difference between other religious freedom laws and the one in Indiana. Every other law applies to disputes between a person or entity and the government. The law in Indiana is the only law that applies to disputes between private citizens. The major problem is this. In Section 9 of the law, under Indiana's law, in Section 9, the person is explained to mean any organization, partnership, LLC, corporation, company, firm, church, religious society, or other entity. Do you feel like one of those folks? There really is very little misunderstanding about this law. It's an interesting spin, but pretty good for a right-wing talker. Now, the law opens the way for business to turn away gay and lesbian couples on religious grounds. Mike Pence could not answer one very simple question.
This is a yes or no question. Is Advance America right when they say a florist in Indiana can now refuse to serve a gay couple without fear of punishment?
Well, let me explain to you. The purpose of this bill is to empower, and has been for more than 20 years, George. This is not speculative.
Yes or no? If a florist in Indiana refuses to serve a gay couple at their wedding, is that legal now in Indiana?
George, this is where this debate has gone.
That was one of your supporters who was talking about the bill right there. It said it would protect a Christian florist who against any kind of punishment. Is that true or not?
George, look, the issue here is
people of any other faith who want to refuse service to gays and lesbians, that it's now legal in the state of Indiana. That's a simple yes or no question.
George, the question here is...
Final yes or no question, Governor. Do you think it should be legal in the state of Indiana to discriminate against gays or lesbians?
George...
It's a yes or no question.
Come on. Hoosiers don't believe in discrimination.
Yes or no, should it be legal to discriminate against gays and lesbians?
George, you're following the mantra of the last week online.
Well, it is a simple yes or no question, which Pence could not answer 6 times. Another problem is Indiana's current anti-discrimination laws. They do not apply to sexual orientation. It's a possible fix, but Pence, not having anything of it.
One fix that people have talked about is simply adding sexual orientation as a protected class under the state's civil rights laws. Will you push for that?
I will not push for that. That's not on my agenda, and that's not been an objective of the state of Indiana, and it doesn't have anything to do with this law.
Finally, Pence said the religious freedom law is here to stay.
We're not going to change this law. It has been tested in courts for more than 2 decades on the federal level.
Let me just ask
in some 30 states, and it represents a foundational protection for individuals.
If Governor Pence stands by his law, it's going to cost the state big time. Many business leaders have threatened to leave Indiana. Some are taking action already. Last week, Salesforce canceled all company events in the state of Indiana. On Sunday, Angie's List announced that they are canceling a $40 million headquarter expansion in the city of Indianapolis. What governor would say that's good news? The proposed expansion was expected to add roughly 1,000 good-paying jobs to the city. Earlier today, Connecticut Governor Dan Malloy signed an executive order barring state-funded travel to the state of Indiana. And today, AFSCME announced that they are moving their October 2015 Women's Conference out of Indianapolis, Indiana. All bad news. President Lee Saunders called it a direct result of the discriminatory law. And Apple CEO Tim Cook is blasting the law. He called it very dangerous, saying religious freedom laws go against the very principles our nation was founded on, and they have the potential to undo decades of progress toward greater equality. Governor Pence, what are you doing? Later this week, Indiana will host the Final Four in Indianapolis. The NCAA is involved. They said that they are concerned about Indiana's law. NBA great Charles Barkley, commentator every weekend, he is slamming the religious freedom law. In a statement, he called discrimination in any form unacceptable, and he went on to say, as long as anti-gay legislation exists in any state, I strongly believe big events such as the Final Four and Super Bowl should not be held in those states' cities. Now, outrage over this law has gotten to the attention of other states. Georgia. Well, you see, they were working on passing something very similar, working on their own religious freedom bill. But they, of course, because of this controversy, have had to table the legislation. Just today, Indiana legislators have stepped forward and said that they will work to clarify the law. My question tonight is, what the hell does that mean? Lawmakers said that they are drafting legislation to address concerns the law could result in discrimination. All the pressure is on Mike Pence. You have to understand who this guy is. He comes from a culture of right-wing radio in America. That's where he's been for a long time. They can say whatever they want, they can think whatever they want, and they can do whatever they want with no ramifications whatsoever. And that's the kind of governor he is right now. But this time, Pence has crossed the line. You see, when you're governor, you're supposed to be representing all the people. He's put his state's economy at risk and started a national conversation about similar laws that's going to cause problems for the National Republican Party. This will no doubt play a role in the 2016 GOP primaries. I mean, it's a softball question now. Reporters should be asking every single Republican presidential hopeful where they stand on this. Do you think the law in Indiana is discriminatory, and do you support it? Thank you, Governor Pence. This is what right-wing radio culture of the mind will do for you in the political arena. It's easy to get on the radio and spew this kind of hate, but try to legislate it without backpush. The bottom line here is that businesses are responding. Go ask Limbaugh if he knows anything about that. Get your cell phones out. I want to know what you think. Tonight's question, should every Republican presidential candidate be forced to disavow the law? Text A for yes, text B for no to 67622. We'll bring you the results later on in the show. Now, just to click the memory a little bit, I remember back in 2002, 3, and 4, when Michael Moore was big putting out all of these films, and the Republican narrative was, ask the Democrats if they disavow themselves from Michael Moore. Well, where are we in 2015? Serve it up, Governor.